We're going live right now. Let me move away from the music a little bit. SPD has shown up. It's approximately 8:17 in the morning. We're at Cal Anderson Park, and they are here to sweep the homeless encampment again. And so there's a couple of officers that are having a conversation. What I do want to do is come on and show over here. So what's going on is there are some unhomed, which you could probably see off in the distance there. They're tents. Some people in the unhomed community are starting to pack up their tents. And there are other people that are kind of, right now having a conversation, I think is the right word, albeit a heated conversation with SPD. Sun is super low and super bright. So right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SPD officers, and right now there might be 15 or 20 activists / protesters / medics that are engaged with them at the moment. No, I am not aware of anybody from the you know what, but let's go ahead and ask. Actually, that's a great question. Who's here from the navigation team? Who's here?
I want a clarification on that.
Who's here from the navigation team?
None of us are from the navigation.
So is navigation team coming, or any social workers coming, or?
No, we are just patrol. We are on patrol.
Okay.
We've been advised by our supervisors.
So there you go. There's the answer. There's nobody here from navigation. There's no social workers. There's no nothing. There are, again, about a half a dozen patrol officers, and I would estimate at this area 10 to 15 activists and medics. There are more activists right now that have moved to where the homeless encampments are to tell them, that the police are here.
We just got here.
So right now things are calm, and also right now the camera's pointing in the wrong flipping direction. Sorry about that, malcontents. I turned that on and because boom, they just showed up, and I was like, oh, okay, we're going to turn them on. So there you go. Now you can see what's going on here a little better. The joys of live broadcast. Oh, and I've just learned something else about this new software. Not happy about it, but I can't do anything about that at the moment. So, what's going on right now for those that are just tuning in? At about 8:12 this morning, first of all, Seattle police came in and said that they would be coming in at about 7 in the morning to sweep the homeless encampment that is here at Cal Anderson. This has just been a rinse, recycle, and repeat that's been going on. They didn't show up at 7. At about 8:12 this morning, Seattle police went to TAC 9. TAC 9 is their scrambled communications. About 5 minutes after that, SPD showed up. Again, there's about a half a dozen officers that are here right now. I have asked the officers. I am told no one is here from the navigation team. There is no social worker. There are no resources. And they are just here, essentially to say, hey, the homeless the unhomed need to leave the camp in the area. And so, again, this has kind of been going on over and over and over again at Cal Anderson Park. If I swing my camera slowly, what you can probably see off in the distance there is some of the tents. Many of the unhomed right now are packing up, because also what's just been happening is SPD just kind of comes in and they throw everything out. When they were here a few days ago, you know, what they had said was, hey, you can go get your property, it's over in this parking lot, and there was nobody there, there was no property there, and there was a bunch of video of SPD throwing people's belongings into garbage trucks. And so this has just been rinse, recycle, and repeat.
Before hearing as being part of this department, you're responsible for what this department does if you're truly to support it. Like, I support a department that routinely kills people, steals people from their homes, kidnaps people, steals people's belongings during a pandemic. You are complicit in the actions of that department.
I'm trying to get you a shot where the camera just isn't, just the sun is just there. Yeah, this is better.
Damn sure about what that, if you swear an oath to an organization, you should be damn sure about what that organization is doing that you're swearing an oath to.
If you were starting the city, then why would you be here?
The city of Seattle is just a big ass corporation. What do you mean? Everybody knows that.
But just like you're supporting it, you're not any better on the city ground.
You eat dinner with them. Wear the same badge as them.
Basically what it is.
Make you a
Y'all are acting like military on city ground.
Yeah, you were trained to go to war, and then you're settlers on the people.
One branch of the military, and that's their badge. That's their badge. That is literally their badge. That is literally their badge. I'm not hearing you.
You come in here.
Are you going to tell me they don't have a badge and gun?
And your gun
A badge is a badge, just
is
not
an
an
intimidation tactic.
It is.
Just a badge should not.
It is.
Like, am I stupid? A badge is just
You're not stupid. What's the
right.
point?
Right. Okay.
You guys know.
So saying that the fucking military doesn't have badges is stupid and wrong.
Yeah.
They have badges.
Mental pretzels. It should be capable of.
Instead of you guys spending $8,500
Most people
on one night,
panic and say to do stuff when they're not thinking.
like we've been helping people where y'all have been failing.
Yeah, 20,000 homeless people. The state has abandoned. We were feeding them. We were giving them blankets. You stole that. The fuck is wrong with you?
Hey there to anybody watching on Seattle Protest Network. How are you doing? This here is the Malcontent. We are live in Seattle at Cal Anderson Park. I'll give you a rundown of what's happening. Yesterday evening,
Shouts at them, you piece of shit.
yesterday evening at
Stop asking
approximately
questions.
8:30 p.m., SPD came in. They removed a couple of tents where people that were unoccupied, saying that it was abandoned property. They told the other people that are unhomed that they would be coming at 7 a.m. To do a sweep of the park. 7 a.m. came and went. At about 8:12 a.m., Seattle police went to TAC 9, which is their scrambled communications. And then about 3 to 5 minutes after that, SPD showed up at Cal Anderson Park. What is going on right now is there is a conversation. This is a conversation that's going on. There's about a half a dozen SPD police officers here. They are, engaged in conversation. There's a couple of different conversations going on. There's a couple of shouts going on. There are some of the unhomed, and now patrol is leaving.
You're not very nice. Quit your fucking job. Go be a firefighter, then you get a fucking thank you.
Every single time. I hope you crash your car into a brick building filled with like TNT.
So what's happening now is SPD is leaving. The conversation is broken down. People are agitated because the conversation has just ended. So what's gonna happen next here? And I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk quickly. I want to be respectful to the unhomed. and not show faces. But at the end of the day, I know people hate that expression. This is the bigger part of the story. What I will presume that happened is, hey, the Unhomed need, let's summarize what was going over there. Hey, the Unhomed need to leave the park. They need to leave now. Yeah, that's not happening. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Fuck you. Fuck you. That's basically what just happened back there. So some of the Unhomed are packing up and leaving, and some of the Unhomed aren't. I'm not going to get closer than this because, again, I want to be respectful. These are human beings, and the people that are being rousted out of here, these are unhomed. These are generally not protesters / activists here. And this has been going on, with SPD has been going back and forth over and over and over again. And so this is happening again. Yeah, that's what I figured. I've already put the word out, and SPN's streaming. So what Seattle police said is they're going to be back in a couple hours. This garbage truck that's coming here is not related to anything that's going on. There is just normal trash collection is going on in the neighborhood right now. So what happens during these things is SPD shows up. This kind of happens. They say they're going to come back, and they're going to come back in force. Some of the Unhomed are going to leave. Some of the Unhomed aren't going to leave. And it's not going to be good. So, if you're in Seattle and you care about the Unhomed, or if you have come out before when this has been happening before, now's the time to get your butt up over to Cal Anderson Park. The other thing is that I would say, in my experience with SPD, is any time estimate that they give, just don't go by that. A couple of hours means they could come tomorrow. A couple of hours means they could show up in 30 minutes. And that's just what I've witnessed over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know if
I could do that. I mean, you can do it, but
I'm worried for you. But yours is very distinct. They both have the precinct and have the
All right, I got to move away from the music so the stream doesn't get kicked off the air. It's actually been a problem on one of the channels that we simulcast on. Yeah, I've had to do so many copyright disputes with on our YouTube channel. It's just so time freaking consuming. So I'd rather just, right now it's peaceful, I'd rather just walk away. So for those of you maybe just tuning in, we're in Seattle, we are live. We're in Cal Anderson Park in Capitol Hill, AKA the area known formally as CHOP, jokingly called pooch by some now. What's been going on here is there has been this rinse, recycle, repeat between the Unhomed activists and the Seattle Police Department. And so Seattle police showed up here again approximately 8:30 last night. They removed a couple of tents because the occupants of those tents were not here. They removed it saying it was abandoned property. As I understand it, those tents were occupied, just the occupants didn't happen to be there at the time. They said that they would be coming back at 7 in the morning. 7 in the morning came and went. SPD did not show up. 8:12 a.m. Seattle went to TAC 9. That is Seattle Police went to TAC 9. That is their scrambled communications channel. And about 3 or 5 minutes later, about a half a dozen patrol officers showed up. They were met by approximately 15, 20 at the most activists / medics. There was a conversation. At times it was a little heated, but there was no shoving or yelling or anything like that. Basically, I could sum up the conversation of the homeless need to go. The homeless aren't leaving. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Fuck you. We're leaving. So, meaning the police. And we're going to be back. And so they'll be back. If they've gone this far, they'll be back. So what's going on is some of the Unhomed, and I'm not going to get closer than this because I really want to be respectful because they're human beings at the frickin' end of the day. Some of the Unhomed are packing up. Some of the Unhomed are not packing up, which has also been the cycle here. And a lot of them just pack, they got nowhere else to go. I mean, this is why they're Unhomed. Seattle, I keep saying this over and over again, Seattle and King County spend about $85,000 per unhomed person in the area a year, over $1 billion. That $1 billion is collected by the taxpayers from numerous different, like there's this tax and that tax, and let's add a penny to this, and all of this is ballooned to spending of over $1 billion a year, and there's nothing to show for it. I wrote about this on Malcontentment.com back in December of 2019 in Welcome to Gotham, Seattle. The unhomed problem in the Seattle area is a systemic and massive failure of the mayor, of the city council, of King County executive, the King County council, and there was an expression, see, like the people, I'm not as left as you think, and there are some things that I think that there are some things on the right that I think the right get. There was an expression that was used on the political right that I haven't heard in a long time about the homeless industrial complex. I actually believe here in Seattle and King County, that is a real accurate description. There are a number of organizations, both public and private and charities, that get a lot of your taxpayer dollars and are doing nothing. They are really, and there's some I don't want to say it's a complete failure. There's some organizations that are doing amazing work, but a lot of that money is just going to the shredder. It's inexcusable in a city and a county spending $85,000 roughly per unhomed person, which is down a little bit from $100,000 in 2017. It was about $100,000 per unhomed person because of COVID, because of the number of people that have lost jobs. The number has gone up. And so hence why the dollar figure, when you divide it out, has dropped to about 85 to 88. You can get all pedantic on the math. There shouldn't be unhomed people if you have $85,000 a year to spend per unhomed person. The other thing that happened a few days ago, and if I turn the camera here, the sun is just at a real crappy angle, so I don't know if y'all can see what this is. This here is the shelter house, which still has the fence that is around it that Seattle Parks put up during their second to last sweep. I think it was their second to last sweep. There's been so many sweeps, it's hard to keep straight at this point. This fence went up at the early part of the week. I want to say Monday. And so the fence is still here. They also, my understanding is, welded doors shut. Actually, I can show here. If I go right here, you should be able to see the weld. Now, this isn't even the shelter house, this is the bathroom. But they've gone ahead and they've welded the door shut there. They've also done some additional welding. They've also, it's probably going to focus on the fence, the camera, and not on the padlock and the other lock that they've put on the door. And they did the same thing over here in the shelter house. So if you haven't heard about this or haven't had this explained before, this is the Cal Anderson Shelter House. I have described it as imagining this is the smallest church hall you've ever seen. When I say church hall, not a place where you worship, but the place where you go where you get your coffee and talk bad about your neighbors for an hour after church. That's what I mean by the church hall. This is basically like one of the smallest church halls you could ever imagine. It's maybe 20 by 20 inside. There is a very small kitchen with a refrigerator and 2 burners and a storage area. Activists and Joint Coalition have been using this space to provide resources to the unhomed. The resources that have been provided here include things like basic necessities, food, blankets, sleeping bags, medical supplies, sanitary items, and there's also been a place to come and get resources for mental health, for drug addiction, for alcohol addiction. The city of Seattle, actually I just realized this, the city of Seattle had put to kind of in a collaborative effort initially, in this area where I'm parting, there used to be a used needle drop-off box here. They then never came in and serviced the drop box, so the drop box became full. Now the drop box is just gone. So your tax dollars at work, people. Your tax dollars at work. The fence is welded on one side. This fence that's gone around here. And then the fence on this side is just lightly bolted. And the fence has stood basically since they went ahead and did all of this. And so, with state unemployment around 10%, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of an opioid, remember we don't even talk about the opioid epidemic as a nation anymore. I guess we solved that, or we just don't care. But we don't even talk about the opioid epidemic. With up to 25% of Americans facing eviction at some point, and at some point the eviction protections are going to go away, but then people are still going to be on the hook for 6, 8, 12, 18 months of rent. And then what happens when they're on the hook? And then what gives, and then at what point do landlords, especially smaller landlords, I'm not talking about the big corporations or hedge funds or foreign national interests, I'm talking small landlords. People say maybe bought a quadplex. They live in one, then they have 3 other units. Not a lot of quadplexes in Seattle. It's a more of an East Coast thing and Rust Belt thing. Or where I grew up on the East Coast, they have these things called 3-deckers. Imagine kind of like 3 1,500 square foot homes stacked one on top of each other. They're very popular for people to buy. They will, the owner will typically live on the first floor or the 3rd floor. First floor, obviously, easiest access. 3rd floor, because you have no noise of somebody walking above and around you. Then they rent out the other 2. What about these people? And so now what's going to happen is the waiting game. And that's what's going to happen. I may think what I'll do is keep the stream going maybe to like 8:50 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I might shut the stream down. It just, SPD showed up really fast, which is why the first couple of minutes of this, the camera was pointing in the wrong direction. And if you're like, how could he not know his camera was pointing in the wrong direction? Camera's up on a pole, so I actually don't see what the camera sees until the signal catches up, because there is a delay. So what I'm watching is in delay, and I reached the point where I'm looking, it's like, wait a minute, I don't have the camera pointing at trees. Why is it looking at trees? And I was like, anyway. Now you know why the first couple of minutes the camera was all wonky. As you can see, there's some activity where the Unhomed are, but there are also, you see some people packing up, but you also see some people that aren't packing up. If the city of Seattle was giving 72 hours notice like it was supposed to, if the city council was saying, hey, why aren't we giving 72 hours notice like we're supposed to, if the navigation team was out here, if activists were out here, if the system that is put in place for people to retrieve their property was actually being used, if the people that are being forced out were being provided resources as they're supposed to, and as the city has money for, and the city has housing. There are dozens of portable homes. That's the politically correct name for a trailer. There are dozens of these down in Soto that are sitting unused. Some have been set up to house people infected with COVID so that they can self-quarantine if they have no place to self-quarantine. And my understanding is not one of those has been used to hold anybody in self-quarantine. There are also a number of hotels that King County in particular has bought with the same idea. And again, those aren't being offered to the Unhomed. Full stop. There are some huge complexities to the situation, because I say it all the time, things aren't black and white. That makes it challenging to take somebody who has been long-term unhomed and put them into a home situation. People that have been long-term homeless tend to fail without the right support being brought into a home situation. And there are a lot of complex reasons around that, and a lot of it is based and rooted in what causes long-term homelessness, which is mental illness, drug, and alcohol addiction. And if those things aren't addressed, then a person is already being set up for failure. And some of the Unhomed don't start being mentally ill, but from the stress and the trauma of having to live now in a society where people just want to waffle stomp you, they become mentally ill. They get anxiety, they get depression, they get PTSD. And then as human beings, it's our human nature, what do? We start to self-medicate. And at first, this self-medication process is going to be more on the known habits they have, but eventually this trails into alcohol and drug use. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but that is what happens to a number of the Unhomed. It's a really good way to put it, Ian. It's a really, really good way to put it. So what's happened again, if you're just streaming in, because I know it's early in the morning, and if people are like, he's repeating himself. Yes, because people are dropping in and out. It's still pretty early. SPD showed up here with a show of force at approximately 8:30 last night. I say a show of force because it's not like two police officers walking in going, hey, what are you doing? You know, they showed up with multiple vehicles. Spec, aka Speculation on Twitter, has some pictures of what was going on last night. SPD removed the possessions and tents of a couple of people, calling it abandoned property because they weren't there. I have been told by activists and people in the Unhomed community that those people just simply were away from their quote-unquote home. I say quote-unquote home, their home. And so SPD just took their stuff. So when they came back, they had no bed, they had no tent, they had no belongings. Hey, happy Thursday night to you. I don't generally think those sirens are related to what's going on here. No, it's an AMR ambulance. It's nothing related to here. They said they would be back at 7 in the morning. 7 in the morning came and went. Seattle PD went to TAC 9. That's their scrambled communications at about 8:12. 3 to 5 minutes later, about half a dozen SPD patrol officers. I asked them, they said they're just patrol officers. I did ask them, hey, is anybody from the navigation team here? As I was told, no, 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 no. At that point, the activists that are here split up into two groups. There was conversation, and I think the right word is a conversation. It was heated. There's some 4-letter words exchanged, but it was a conversation. And the other group went to wake up some of the unhomed who were still asleep to say, hey, police are here. So it's time to start making some decisions. Puppers! One of the things I like about doing these posts is that it's really, really easy to figure out people that are just coming in to stir the pot and in the comments versus people that are actually listening to the stream. It makes things really, really easy. So thank you for making it easy. And I always like to remind the people that come in and troll the feed, thank you for trolling the feed, because the Facebook AI in particular doesn't care. You actually amplify the voice, and that just gets more eyeballs on the feed, particularly eyeballs that care and want to communicate this. So thank you for giving the boost. We really appreciate it. Love it, Patricia. And congratulations. I agree with Maddie's sentiment there. So right now things are quiet, but it seems, oh good news. 1 second, I have to answer this.
Bro, somebody got that video. Oh shit, my bad. Somebody got that video when we tried to get into the party they stopped with. Yeah, somebody got it. I don't know, but I saw like 6 phones. So somebody had that.
For those of you who are sharing your stories on being unhomed, thank you so much for your bravery. Thank you for sharing your stories. It is a significant problem in what is the richest nation on the planet, where it shouldn't be a problem. And it's a growing problem when it shouldn't be a growing problem. It should be a shrinking problem.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt you, but what's the status of the cops?
So what they said is they said they'd be back in a couple hours.
Couple hours.
But of course, you know, that means they could be back in 30 minutes or not even show up today, right? I mean, that's how they roll. So that's as much as I know. I do know they've gone over to their scrambled communications, which tells me they'll probably be back today, and probably be back soon.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't get fucked up in there, but I'm just saying.
I am the malcontent, yes.
I'm watching you.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Ah, naughty problem, isn't it?
What's that?
A naughty problem.
It's an interesting way to put it, yes. Oh, naughty as in knots?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Yes, I love that, a knotty problem. Yes, it is definitely a very tangled piece of rope or power cord or whatever else you want to use. You know, it's not simple, and there's no simple answers.
What would you like to see happen?
Wow, usually I'm the one asking the questions. What would I like to see happen? I'll give you three things. One, we are on the brink of something really horrible. We need leadership on both sides to say stop. You're asking me what I want, not what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
We need strong leadership from both sides to say stop and put a pause, because we are hurtling to a place that we don't want to go. So that's number one. The second thing is I've said on air many times, I'm not fond of the term defund, because I think the word sparks the wrong things. I am more fond in calling it unburden or demilitarize.
Yeah.
These SPD officers that showed up earlier, these 6 officers, they don't want to be social workers. If I could have followed them down and asked, hey, do you want to be a social worker today? I know all 6 would be like, no, I don't want to do this. They don't want to do it. So then,
wouldn't mind maybe having social workers come along with them.
exactly. But wouldn't it just be, but why do they need armed tasers, tear gas, blah, blah, to come up here and have a conversation to say, hey, you need to leave the park? They've already triggered everybody just by their presence showing up. So that's why I say demilitarize and unburden the police. I still think that you need police to do police things, but I think we are so over pivoted on criminalizing stupidity, criminalizing poverty, criminalizing race, that we've created this complete, it's not broken, it's working perfectly as designed, and that needs to be fixed. That's number 2. And then the third thing is, what's up? The third thing is specific to the Unhomed, that we hold our leaders accountable. We spend as a community $85,000 a year fighting homelessness per homeless person. Why is there anybody homeless with that much money getting spent? That's per the Puget Sound Business Journal. Over $1 billion a year is being spent, and all that's being collected by the taxpayers. And so the one thing that I say, I don't care if you're political left, I don't care if you're a 3% or a Proud Boy, you should be pissed off about this. Where is my money going?
Yeah.
And there needs to be accountability. So those are my 3 things.
My son, some years ago, was a social worker
Uh-huh.
for about 6 years, and his population was homeless. And he worked for Downtown Emergency Service Center first, right after college.
Okay.
And
I'm going
then-
to move a little closer so people can hear you, that's all.
and then for a couple of other agencies. And then it got exhausting, so he was worked out. He wanted to leave social work before he got burned
Oh, no,
out.
I'll just hold it.
Okay. He still pays really close attention to whatever plan somebody expresses. But when he was a social worker and he was working on housing homeless people, fragile homeless people, they had to work with landlords, and a lot of landlords were willing to be worked with. But then one day, one of my son's clients took a schizophrenic person to an interview with them, and the landlord called up after this. He got threatened by the schizophrenic person, and he said, "What are you doing sending me stuff like this?" You know, so it sounds like in some ways millions of human failures, you know, managing the problem year after year after year.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, right? It's real easy to go, well, I blame Jenny Durkin, but Jenny Durkin inherited the mess from multiple previous mayors, too many to name off at this point. The city council inherited this mess from multiple council members that are just too numerous to live. Dow Constantine's been in his role for quite a while at this point, so I feel kind of safe going like, Dow Constantine, you're going to own some of this. He's been in that role for a long time. It's a little hard to kind of go, well, it was the guy before me. But I agree that it's like a death of a million cuts.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. I think that it's true, and there's enough experience now that people might be able to sit down and say, well, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. So we rule out all these things didn't work for all these years. Let's come up with new ideas. But I would love to listen to see, what people come up with that's different, that isn't one of the things that didn't work. I wish that nobody had emptied out the hospitals for the mentally ill. I wish somebody had improved those, made them safe, but a lot of people wouldn't be on the streets if they had good hospitals for them. And the state falls apart for mental health, I think.
Yeah, let me give a little background on that, because what she's talking about is in the 1980s, the Reagan administration and the ACLU joined together and formed this unholy alliance to basically throw the doors open of the mental institutions that were in the United States. The Reagan administration was interested in doing this strictly from a cost-saving standpoint, and the ACLU was interested in this because it was they put it as kind of a human rights issue, that if you want to wander around in the street soaked in your own urine, mumbling to yourself, that basically that is your right to do that. And so basically anybody who wasn't, I'm going to stab you as soon as I walk out the door, or I'm going to stab myself as soon as I walk out the door, were pushed out of the mental institutions across the United States. Funding was completely slashed, and a lot of these mental institutions closed. And then what happened was we had, and again, naughty situation as in KNOTT, crime in the decade that followed this exploded in the United States. And it isn't as simple to say, well, because that happened because they threw the mental institution. It's complicated on everything that happened in that, but it's definitely a contributing factor in where crime exploded in the United States. So what has happened now throughout the United States is we have gone back to a pre-1850 model of mental health, where our mental health institutions are the prisons. What's going on is just some trash cans moving in the background. There's nothing. There's nothing. Nothing of interest going on with the noise that you're hearing there. And this continues on today. Here in Washington State, our primary mental health hospital has been had its credentials removed by the federal government as a medical institution, and has been operating without credentials for several years.
Yeah. Eastern and Western hospitals have been, I think Western got removed more recently than Eastern's, if I'm remembering correctly, but it's a mess. And then they just closed the psychiatric unit at University Hospital, which was a very fine unit at University Hospital. They just did that recently, months ago, because of the pandemic, I think. They had to slash their budget. But there's virtually no good mental health treatment inpatient around here. There's some hospitals, but they scare me right now. And they're not necessarily near families when their people get sent to them.
Right.
So there's the additional lack of safety for people when they're sent away, far away from their families. So yeah, it's a mess.
And one of the other things that happens is that if you are mentally ill, if you need drug or alcohol treatment, insurance provides generally limited coverage for these services, when there was a big push maybe a decade ago to provide the same coverage as you would for a physical ailment for a mental health ailment. And so what happens is like, okay, you need to go in for drug addiction. We will cover for a 14-day program or a 30-day program. And for people who are severely addicted, a 14-day program is a complete joke. And a 30-day program is probably not going to get them over the hump, at least to the point where they're going to be successful. However, the medical institutions that service these 14-day and 30-day programs get to make a lot of money doing nothing.
Right. Do you know how the DESC wet house is doing? I thought that was a hopeful thing when they started Downtown Emergency Service Center, started bringing people indoors without requiring them to be sober first. And I haven't heard lately how that's going.
And I don't know. I don't know how that's going either. I know when they tried that at Licton Springs, right, it turned into a disaster up there. But we've also learned afterwards that the company that was managing, the private company that was managing that on a multi-million-dollar contract, was basically pocketing the money and not doing anything and providing any services that they were supposed to be providing to the residents at Licton Springs.
Oh, that's terrible. I didn't know what caused that. Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you want? You asked me what I want, so let me turn the question back around on you. What do you want?
I want good mental health services all over this state, but like now. I want hospitals operating. I want them staffed well. I want them doing a good job. I'd rather they be public facilities so there's more accountability, so that you can keep track of where the money's going and who's doing it and how well. I'm not crazy about private, if the money's just gonna disappear. I want people to get off the streets because they die on the streets. And you know, it's a horrible thing. Even if you're only walking by, people dying on the street. It's horrible. It shouldn't be this way. They should be in safe housing, getting mental health or whatever medical services they need. That's what I want. It's amorphous in a way, but I want it to start now. I want this business to stop. That's what I want.
Can I ask your name? We're streaming, but I always say we're streaming, but if you want to share your name, that's up to you.
I'm Kathleen.
Hey, Kathleen, and I'm the Malcontent. It's been great talking with you. Thank you for stopping by.
Talking to you.
It was a great conversation.
Thank you. A great conversation. I've been wanting to ask you questions.
Well, there you go. Feel free to ask anytime. Thank you. All right, Malcontents, we were just talking to Kathleen, who lives in the neighborhood, and we were having a discussion on kind of the history of mental health care in the United States, and the history and situation on mental health care and the unhomed and the services and lack thereof here in Washington State. That was a great conversation. And again, thank you so much to the people that are coming in with their comments in their feed. One, it makes it so easy to identify who you are when your comments aren't even germane to the topic and the conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping us in the Facebook algorithm to get more eyeballs on the feed. And there is a puppers. It's like some pug, but it's like a brown mix, and I don't want to run. You could probably see the puppers. I don't want to run with the camera and the pole and everything else that I'm in. And what's this person doing? Since we were talking to the woman, it does look like another tent or two have come down. What I don't know is, I don't know, for instance, this red tent is still there, but I don't know if anybody's actually in that red tent. And yeah, I can come over here like I was telling you how I was saying they welded this shut. I'm gonna guess you can see where they've put steel plate up the city and welded this and welded some of the doors shut. One of the things that was being commented on by some of the unhomed is the activists that were in here that would have been in this cupola area. I guess you can kind of call it a cupola. They would have been cooking here, and there would have been hot meals for the unhomed. Sorry about kicking the pole. this morning. A significant number of the tents are gone, but certainly not all of them. I was kind of through here. I did a couple of walkthroughs this morning, and I can tell you that I can't say all of it. It's not like I went and knocked on tent flaps, so I can't say that they're all occupied, but I can tell you that most of them were occupied. So a lot of these tents that you're still seeing up are people that are here, meaning they're not empty tents. This over here is the garden that was planted during CHOP, this pea patch looking area, and growing season that we have here in the Seattle area. This is when sunflowers generally start popping up. If you're not familiar with planting vegetable gardens, there's this concept called the Three Sisters or the Four Sisters. Sunflowers are part of the Four Sisters. And the Four Sisters are corn, squash, beans, and sunflowers. And you're supposed to plant them in a sequence. It kind of depends on the part of the country you live in and what grows what, where, when. The squashes serve to shade the ground, so they actually help control weeds, and they also help hold in the moisture. The sunflowers act as the stalks for beans, and they also serve as distraction for birds and wildlife, which will gravitate towards the sunflower seeds before they will gravitate towards the corn, the squashes, or the green beans. The green beans also, if you've never grown green beans before, they're super prolific and they grow pretty fast. And then the corn, of course, is corn, and to an extent, the green beans grow up the corn. And so then what you kind of have is the green beans come in boom first, and then you have those, and then the corn comes in, and then you can harvest out the corn, and then your squashes come in, and those are the things that you can kind of store, right? And you store them properly in a cool, you can store them for months, and back before refrigeration, back before yada, 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 this is what was planted. It is a old ancient planting technique, and it's a planting technique that was used by the indigenous peoples of North America. And the only reason I know that worthless trivia is we planted a Four Sisters garden, and it worked. It was actually the 1 year that we had surviving edible corn. It does work, and it really does work in the weed department. So you'll just need to kind of figure out on your own if you can plant that. Wow. I see a beautiful, ripe heirloom tomato, and I see ripe cherry tomatoes. And again, all of this was planted during CHOP as community gardens, and the city promised that they would allow these to stay. And so far they have stayed. And there are people that are tending to the garden, and they have put in these rain collectors / drip irrigation systems, because we are very dry here in Seattle. And I want to see, this is amazing. I don't know if I have this frame right. It's so bright I can't see the screen. I hope I do. This sign that says this garden is for Black Indigenous folks and their plant allies, this is one of the first signs that went up in CHOP. This sign has been here like June 9th, June 10th, and it's still here. And it's probably one of the only signs that is still here and has been here through the whole time. And every time I come here to the pea patch, I always look to see if that sign is still here. Because for me, this sign symbolizes, in a way, CHOP is still here. And CHOP isn't a place, chop as a concept. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are expecting the Seattle Police Department to come in and do a sweep of the homeless encampment at Cal Anderson Park for who knows what number of time this is. This has been going on over and over again. And they showed up here last night, Seattle Police. I say show of force. What I mean by show of force is a significant number of officers and resources came in. They removed the tent of a few people around 8:30 last night, calling it abandoned property because the people that occupied those tents were not there. So those people came back last night to find all their belongings, their housing, and where they sleep gone. And this is what I was told by the activists and by people that I trust that are going to give me a fair and accurate story, because I've reached out to them on other things and they're like, yeah, that didn't happen, let me tell you, right? So anyway, the Seattle Police said they would be back at 7 in the morning. 7 o'clock came and went. At 8:12 in the morning, Seattle PD went to TAC 9, that's their scrambled communications channel. About a half a dozen patrol officers, that's what they called themselves when I asked, showed up here at about Puppers. Hey there, Puppers. Oh, you want to come say hi? Okay. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? They want to say hi. Owner doesn't want them to say hi. Oh, no, you can say hi. Oh, I don't know. You're like, I don't know. Puppers. I see it had to totally be on your terms, didn't it? It had to totally be on your terms. Oh my good. Oh, I see now. Now, look at you with the one blue eye and the one brown eye. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful dog. You're gorgeous. Bumpers. Got to get some dog love. Sorry, Yoda. Have a pug. Yoda the Wonder Pug. SPD, about a half a dozen patrol officers showed up. There was a conversation. Yes, there was some heated words, but there was no yelling or anything like that. We have the whole thing recorded. SPD, right-wingers, no spinning the story. There were definitely some heated words that were exchanged, no denying that. I could sum up the conversation of the unhomed people have to leave. They're not leaving. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. Fuck you. Fuck you. We're leaving. Fine. Go. Fuck yourself. Leave. That is basically the conversation summed up in about 20 seconds. SPD said they would be back in a couple of hours. However, historically, when SPD says things like, oh, we'll be back in a couple of hours, it generally doesn't mean anything. It could mean they're back in 30 minutes. It means they may not even be coming today.
That's what I was going to say. They said they're coming back. Yeah, but they didn't say when. Or
yeah.
They just said we'll be back.
Yeah. So, and I'm streaming right now, just so you know. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, okay. Can I talk to you for a couple of minutes? Yeah. Or okay, cool. Here, let's do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is real good for showing what the police are doing and what activists are doing. It's not when it's on the pole like this, it's not the greatest for
Can you see up there? Can you see?
I'll just hold it out for you.
Can you see what you're recording up there?
I can see on my other device, but I don't see it in real time.
Oh, okay.
Because there is a delay that we've intentionally put into things.
I see.
So because Seattle Police made it abundantly clear that they're a fan of the Malcontentment Tango earlier this week. They put us on blast on their loudspeakers.
Oh, really?
That they love to stream. But we've added an intentional delay.
Okay.
We try to change it up. I'm using new software right now, and the delay seems actually a lot longer than the other software that I was using, and I don't have as much control over it. Anyway,
all right.
You can tell me your name if you want. You don't have to if you don't want.
No, just Christina.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So It's you.
It's me.
You have a different mask.
Yeah, this one's a lot better. I don't have to keep the other ones. The cloth ones are always falling down, and I'm always having to. This one like sits very nicely.
So this here is Christina D of Rebellion Baby.
Rebellion Baby.
Who we helped out after SPD violated your First Amendment rights.
Yes.
Violated your First Amendment rights. Took your camera equipment.
They did.
Smashed it.
They did.
Even though you have a media badge on at the time, even though most people at this point know who you are, you have a different mask.
Yeah.
And your hair is fabulous today.
Thank you. Thank you. It used to be long. It was actually down here in January, and I cut off 16 inches in January.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really long. I used to get so many compliments every day when it was long and curly. I'm growing it back out though. It was really like damaged. It used to be bright red all the time, so I just wanted to cut it all off and start naturally. So yeah, it'll be back again, but it was very long.
Were you able to donate it?
No, because it's like it was damaged from all.
Got it.
sides,
Got it.
so
Got it.
I wish I could, but yeah, I will again though if I do that.
So I know you've been out to this, and I know you were here at the last one, if I remember correctly. Right?
Yeah, the last sweep. Yeah.
Yeah, when Quincy was arrested.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean,
and the one before that too. I've been at the last two.
so I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's complete bullshit. Like, you're arresting people for literally using their words and standing on the sidewalk. Like, literally, that's what it was. And they want to say that the park is closed, but we know that there was like hundreds of people in here with no mask, like getting baptized in recycled water, and they were fine with that. So we know the park's not closed. So literally, yeah, they're just out here bullshitting, ruining people's people don't understand unless you've been in the situation like I have. I've been homeless in Seattle before, and people don't understand, like, when you have a tent, like, that is your home. That's your security. A place to lay down. Like, it's your everything, you know? So for them to come in here and just put people's tents in the garbage, their possessions. I heard someone's, like, grandma's ashes got thrown away. Like,
I had heard that also.
Yeah, so it's complete bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah.
I know you were public within your circle about your personal journey. Like, you had mentioned you've been homeless before, and you have been public in your personal. It's a wide personal circle.
Yeah.
On your journey on that, is that something you would like to talk about, or do you? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I just, I was lost in addiction for a long time, for many years, which led me to, being in the system, being homeless. I got to know SPD really, really well during that time too. So I'm very familiar with them and their tactics and how they think and how they move. But yeah, this month actually I celebrated 3 years sober. So.
And you got a bonus day because this was a leap year.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah, bonus day. So yeah, you learn. You are able to. Have a lot more empathy for people, and you understand a lot more when you've been there, you know what I mean? So yeah, just had a really many rough years, but thank God everything's okay now, going on 3 years. So yeah, upper hope, downward dope.
So I'm going to spare you like all the numbers because I know you've heard me on my stream. I know you, right? So I'm not going to go over the whole 85,000 and billion a year, blah, 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 right? People hear that over and over again. What do you say to that, right? What do you say to the financial resources that King County and Seattle are just shredding and they have nothing to show for it?
Yeah, they need to. I think the most important thing where all those resources and money needs to go right now is in mental health, and resources like to put into these to help people get into homes,
help them get, benefits they need, and especially the mental health crisis down in Seattle. It's so bad. Like, you go down to Pioneer Square, you go down everywhere. We need to put that money. Every time I come out here and I see SPD out here for hours sitting in the shade, I'm like, this is literally what they're getting paid to do, when that money could be used, like I said, for mental health, to help house the homeless community and give them resources and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That answered the question.
Yeah. So, like, for my national audience, Pioneer Square is kind of like this historical district in Seattle, right? It goes back to the earliest days after the Great Seattle Fire. The term Skid Row actually comes from Seattle, and it goes to the timber industry that was going on. So Seattle is extremely hilly. So there was a road that was going downhill. That road was purposely greased so that the logs that were coming in would essentially slide down this greased road, hence called Skid Row, so that the logs would go into Elliott Bay, so they could then get shipped out or cut up by the sawmills or in the waterfront. And so Pioneer Square has always been, in the 20 years that I have lived here, has always been a challenging area for the unhomed, drug and mentally addicted, and there is a long history in that area down there of violence and multiple problems. And it's an area that, like, for me, I was traveling to New York City on business a lot last year, and I felt safer anywhere in Manhattan, than I would at the equivalent time in Pioneer Square, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's sad. It's sad. I mean, it always has been, but I've noticed, and I haven't been out here as much as like I said, because my life has been going a lot better and in a different direction. But I've noticed within the last, just like within the last 5 years, maybe 5 to 7 years, how much worse it's gotten. In my opinion, I don't think it's ever been this bad. I think it's the worst it's ever been that I can remember being in Seattle. And I honestly think it has to do a lot with the cops when they shut down the jungle. And they knew for like 30 years what was going on there, how many people were living in the area. And when that shooting happened, they had like no choice but to confront it. They kicked everybody out without giving them any resources, and that's why it kind of overflowed everywhere. I mean, in my opinion, that's what I can make the connection to why things are the way they are, because they knew there was an area that was hidden out of the way where they didn't have to deal with the, with the community, people living in their tents and being homeless out there, and they, let it happen for so long, and then, it got national attention, and they had no choice but to address it. And instead of helping all the people that were there and giving them resources, they just pushed them out. So. And
then they just scattered everywhere on the street.
Yeah, because where are they going to go?
Right.
Right.
And
they have nowhere to go, and they had no resources. So of course they're just going to, go where they have nowhere to go.
And initially, a lot of those people were kind of like around Cherry and James and 6th, under the freeway again, basically under the freeway again. And then there was a whole bunch of issues with violence and break-ins, and they came in and basically played whack-a-mole again, but didn't address the problem.
Exactly, and that's the thing. They don't address the problem. Their idea is just to go in and do sweeps and throw people in jail. Well, they're going to get released. They're going to go back on the streets. They have nowhere to go. So, help the community, give them resources, help, instead of doing what you're doing, help,
Right, because right now they're not doing much of anything. But one of the things they are doing is taxing the residents of Seattle and King County and spending $1 billion a year, and they have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, which is bullshit.
I think that's the right word.
Yeah.
Christina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christina works at one of my favorite restaurants. I'm not going to say where to respect her privacy because there are psychopaths that I know that watch this stream, and you know who you are. The mods are probably banning you as fast as they can as I'm talking right now. But I will talk to you offline because you know, yeah, I haven't been in a long time and I'm overdue.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. We'll see what happens.
All right, I know. We'll see. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, that's my plan.
Yeah.
We were talking with Christina D. She is with Rebellion Baby. Malcontent, that was the individual who had her camera equipment smashed by SPD. And so that we had put a call out on blast saying, hey, please help Christina D out and get her new equipment. That's her. So thank you so much. Greg, you just never went down to, I'm reading your comment, you never went to Pioneer Square. I'll tell you that just straight up. 2012, 2013, you never went to Pioneer Square.
Yo.
Yo.
Right now?
Yeah.
Nah, no recording, bro.
Okay.
I told you that before.
All right. No,
let me say this though, so you can understand me. If there's no pigs, you don't record. There's fucking reasons why I asked you about that shit earlier.
Okay.
All right. Come on.
All right. No, I got it.
All right.
So what we'll do is we're going to wrap it up here out of respect. What people here need to understand is I have worked really, really hard. I'm wrapping it up.
I need you to erase all that. My brother doesn't have his mask on. I need you to erase that.
All right. I'm wrapping it up right now.
That has to be erased.
I understand. I'm wrapping it up right now. So what's going on, as I said, I've worked really, really hard to build the relationships here and build the trust, and that's on me. So I am going to end the stream, and we're going to take some action, and we will be back. And so with that,